before we even get started talking about football, before we even get to the intro, I would like to say that if you are in the path of Hurricane Milton or if you are in a flood zone, please do be safe. Please evacuate if that's something that you are capable of doing, and if that's something that is recommended for you. Just please reach out. Please be safe. Please be careful. And I hope that it's not nearly as bad as people are anticipating. I know it's not going to happen, but I am once again asking Billy Napier to make a change on the offensive line.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of Locked On Podcast and Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever this is the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And like I have said, I don't know, man. Every week for what feels like an eternity now. This team's played 5 games. But it feels like I've been asking you this for an eternity. Please make a change at right guard with Damieon George. I would like to see Bryce Lovett as a starting right guard. And here's the thing. I don't think, let's backtrack for a second, okay? Going into the spring, it was, hey, Damieon George is moving to guard. He's going to be playing right guard. Najee Harris, Bryce Lovett, going to be competing at left guard. Whoever steps up, all that fun stuff, right? All that jazz. Then as we get closer, it's still, hey, spring game happens. I didn't think Damieon George was good at right guard. We talked about that. With the insider program, I sent the single game scouting report, and I was like, look, I think he's better at guard, but still not good. The season starts, had Damieon George and Cam Waits had that play toward the end of the Miami game. Looking at Damieon George against UCF, I think that Damieon George was the one offensive lineman that really struggled against UCF, okay? Again, take us back to the beginning of the year through now. I don't think that any of the guards are playing particularly well, okay? I don't think Najee Harris is living up to the expectations that we had, which again, I feel like we've been very consistent on this show that when you have expectations for players, a lot of players, typically a lot of those guys don't live up to those expectations. It seems like through the first month of the season, first 5 games, Najee Harris is one of those, okay? Bryce Lovett, though, I feel like he kind of exceeded expectations, at least my expectations, because prior to the spring and through the beginning of spring and through the beginning of fall camp, really, I was like, hey, he might win the battle, but I don't know if he's going to be good. I think that he's been better at guard than I anticipated. But again, I think Damieon George was the one offensive lineman that really struggled against UCF. I don't think Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson played amazing, but I don't think he played bad as I've seen some people say. I think Najee Harris also struggled a bit against UCF, but not as an overall blocker. I think that I don't know. I feel like Najee just didn't get a ton of push as a run blocker. I don't think Bryce Lovett got a ton of push as a run blocker either. But that's just something that you kind of live with. Like if you do your job, you don't get a ton of push, but you open the lane, I'll take it. I do think that Najee Harris and Bryce Lovett were both very good in pass protection when they were given the opportunities. But if you go back to, I want to say the Thursday show last week. So if you go back to the Thursday show of last week, which would be Thursday, October 3rd, I was talking about the UCF defense or the UCF team in general. But when I was talking about the UCF defense, I spoke about one specific guy that I was like, you know what? I think that he might be a problem. I think he's a pretty good football player. Like I think he's kind of a dude out there. And it was Lee Hunter. Okay, Lee Hunter is one of the starting defensive tackles for UCF. And he's someone that I was like, like he could cause problems on the interior. He didn't cause a ton of problems, or at least, how do I word this? The results weren't too bad for Florida there, obviously. But, and you could look at the first drive itself, and there's two plays that I watch, and I go, oh my God, he just ate Damieon George's lunch there. First drive, which granted, I think had the most plays of any Florida drive. But the first drive, there's two plays there that you could look at. I think they're both within the first like 6 or 7 plays. But you could look at it and you can go, okay, he's bullying Damieon George a bit. There's one play where I don't know how it happened. Damieon George wound up behind him. I don't know how that happened, but Damieon George wound up behind him with Lee Hunter closer to closer to Graham Mertz. So it's like Graham Mertz, Lee Hunter, Damieon George behind Lee Hunter. It was weird. It was weird, but it was also bad. So I am calling for Bryce Lovett to start at right guard, or Najee Harris start at right guard with Bryce Lovett at left guard. Time to play the youth at guard, I think. The only other suggestion I'm going to make for the depth chart, which, by the way, Bryce Thornton started at safety against UCF. I know that I posted the clip of Bryce Thornton going up against Townsend Jr. I forgot his name. Or Pittman Jr. Sorry, Pittman Jr., not Townsend Jr. Pittman Jr. Townsend's the receiver that hit the portal for them. But Pittman Jr. in the end zone. And someone commented like, hey, Bryce Thornton should be starting. He did. He was the starting safety opposite Jordan Castell. So that seems to be a move of Jordan Castell, Bryce Thornton as the starting safeties. DJ Douglas to the bench. Rightfully so. Good move there. Jadan Baugh needs to get more snaps, as does Jacoby Jackson. More reps. Trayon Webb is not playing or did not play against UCF. I don't think he's going to play this week either. Just I don't know. Something about it just tells me he's not going to play this week. So I don't think he plays this week either, but Jadan Baugh had 9 carries. Jacoby Jackson had 3. Jadan Baugh's 9, not bad. Jacoby needs more than 3. And one of Jacoby's was a touchdown there. Also, we will acknowledge this again, which we've acknowledged before, but Jadan Baugh, one hell of a pass pro rep. And if you've been, again, I've mentioned this a couple times, I got hired for this job 3.5 years ago. Okay? And when I got hired 3.5 years ago, one of the things I talked about was Dameon Pierce as a pass blocker at running back. Okay? Jadan Baugh is a good pass blocker at running back. I'm not saying Jadan Baugh is Dameon Pierce. What I am saying is that we here care about running backs in pass protection. Jadan Baugh, a pretty good one right now, at least. Again, limited sample size. But so far, early returns look pretty good. He needs more touches, more snaps. And Jacoby Jackson, not so much in the pass pro. I don't know if we've seen Jacoby Jackson in pass pro a single time this year. Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing that we've seen so far yet, but needs more touches. We've seen him be effective with the ball in his hands. Now we are going to be joined by Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end, next on Locked On Gators. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play. Some games you could straight up watch. I'm just like You can open FanDuel and legitimately watch the game. Wild. I've looked at the other sports books. I'm pretty sure you can't do that on any of them. I'm just saying. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Joining me now for Locked On Gators is Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end. And before we talk too much about it, Hayden Hansen, a winning streak? Is that what we're getting this? I thought after that first game, I thought the season was over. Basically, what happened?
Yeah, just gotta have a little faith, man. You know, we're working. No one's surprised inside the building. We took care of business these past 2 games. We know what we're coming into in Tennessee, hostile environment. We don't like them; they don't like us. I think they remember what happened to them last year, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They also just lost to Arkansas, so they're going to be even more motivated. So we have to go in there ready. I mean, they got some guys on the D line. Their linebackers are solid, and we're going in there with respect for their game, and we're going to go do our thing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about their upset against Arkansas because I feel like I hated that. Like I hated that they lost. I feel like when a team gets upset, I feel like it's just like, oh, like having to play them the next week kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean it just kind of goes to the extra motivation, you know. I know when we lost to A&M, going into those next games, you're always a little extra motivated. Especially and when you're at home too, your fans are gonna be motivated as well. It's probably gonna be a little extra loud. I've never been there before. I'm actually really excited to play there, but we know what we're walking into, and we know that if we show up and execute, we'll get out of there with the win.
All right, you weren't on the travel roster in your freshman year.
No, I didn't travel to that game.
Yeah. Do you have like a? I know it's like Tennessee hate week. Do you have anything for them, or is there like an additional hate for them?
No, I mean I don't really. No.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that people talk about it, but I'm 28 for the overwhelming majority of my life. It's been all Florida, so it's tough for me as just a fan to have additional hate for them. But going back to this game against UCF, can you walk me through this game because it felt like maybe the most fired up that we've seen a Billy Napier-led Florida Gators team, and that first half was maybe the most dominant first half that we've seen from a Billy Napier-led Florida Gators team.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to us clicking on all cylinders. That was one of I think that this game this season was probably the least amount of like errors, MAs, and I think it shows. I mean, it just shows how good this team can be, and there's still plenty of things we can fix, especially in that second half. And it just goes to show you though that it's not all on the coaches. When the players do what the players are supposed to do, it's a different result. I mean, we have all the talent on both sides of the ball and special teams to do what we need to do. So we got to put it all together.
Yeah, and obviously you're not a coach, so you can't speak too much on it. But I think for me, one of the most surprising things was UCF in the second half. It felt like they were kind of just like, hey, man, let's just run the ball and get out of here. Like I felt like they were killing clock. Just what was that like from your perspective, where I know that people will harp, myself included, will harp on the 0 points in the second half, but really you guys had 3 drives and it seemed like UCF was just like, yeah, let's just run the ball and get out of here. It felt like a weird approach by them.
Yeah, well, I mean, as good as our defense was playing, I don't know what you can do, I feel like they were just maybe trying to bust a big run, get some momentum back, or I don't know. Can't really speak for their coach, but we'll take it.
Yeah. And I have to ask, we saw the video with Billy Napier afterwards. Just what was his message like in the locker room where I'm pretty sure he yelled, "You like that?" And then it looked like Trey Smack like punched him or something. Just what was Billy Napier like in the locker room afterward?
Yeah, I mean, he's been calling on Trey quite a bit this season to be the hype man before and after the game, and Trey, that's kind of always been Trey's thing a little bit. And Napier brought up the Kirk Cousins clip, obviously in one of the team meetings, and it's just kind of stuck since then. And Trey, most of the time we'll call Trey up to like say you like that, but after the game, he called Trey up to do it, and Trey's like, no, you do it. So he did it, and then everyone went a little crazy. So it was good for the team.
Yeah, has Trey always been the hype? If I'm not mistaken, Trey was one that front flipped into the pool one time? Or
That was freshman year. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the first and last because we got in trouble for that. So
yeah, I remember seeing the video and people be like, no.
Yeah, he's kind of grown into the hype man. He was. I don't really remember if he. I don't think he was hype man at all last year, but I think he got a little swag to him this year, and Napier noticed it, and Napier loves it.
Yeah, he's something. He's. I feel like Trey is just one of those people where like the fan base loves him as well, and it feels like it's always. I don't know if it's the name Trey Smack just sticks, but I feel like the fan base has always kind of resonated with Trey Smack since his freshman year. So it makes sense to see him as the hype man. And speaking of hype, what was your reaction for Billy Napier getting fired? After that roughing the punter call. I obviously you were in person, but even on TV, it was like tough to hear the commentators when that happened because the crowd was just going nuts.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we don't want the flag there. It was funny because I had a holding penalty that game too, and after everyone that has a penalty has to stay on Sunday and do one up down for every yard you cause. So I had 10 up downs for the holding call, and Napier did his 15 for the I don't even know, what do they call it?
They called him unsportsmanlike conduct.
So he did his up downs. He apologized, and it was funny. You know, he's one of those coaches that are really hard on situational awareness. So we all kind of crack jokes. We're like, that wasn't very situational right there, coach. But
yeah, that was that's something about that moment. It reminded me of the Tennessee game 2 years ago when they were in Tennessee and he got called for something similar, but it just felt like that he was just going berserk, and it was awesome to see it.
Yeah, I mean, we loved it obviously, but we see that a lot more than the fans do because he's a really respectable guy. He'll keep his cool and composure, but sometimes you just can't, and he'd let it go. I mean, we see that all the time, but have the fans see that and get all excited, it was pretty cool.
I honestly, I know that we've talked about it in passing, like on this show. We've mentioned in passing that the fan base calls for his job and that everybody says things about him. I think that might have been the most behind Billy Napier the fan base has been since the Utah win in his first year. Like that was just everybody was just going, like no one cared about the 15 yards. No one cared about anything. It just seemed like everybody was like, hell yeah. Like seeing that fire from him was just awesome. So I could only imagine being on that team. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd be like, yeah, to screw the 15 yards. Like get fired up. That just seemed like an awesome moment from him.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, when you get fired up like that, you can go back from the 2 podcasts ago when I said it. I mean, winning fixes everything. You know, we won 2 in a row. He showed a little emotion. The fans love it. You didn't hear any boos this time. So I mean, if we keep doing our thing, keep winning, all those comments and the hate stuff is going to start going down. You know, I mean, we can silence everybody.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Because I don't know if you know this, stadiums, thousands of people, thousands of tickets. If you're going to a sporting event, like, I don't know, maybe might just mess around and head to the NLDS. Saying my Mets up 2-1 on the Phillies. Just saying. Hell of a game we had yesterday. Just saying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And can you walk me through your holding call, what it was? I know you mentioned it. It was something we were going to talk about today anyway, because watching it just, and I feel like context matters with penalties especially. What happened on it? Was it just felt like you were losing the rep, got a little hand technique, got a little sloppy, hands just got wide? What was it?
Yeah, so I mean, initially I was going to fit him up. Most of the game he was speed rushing, like long arming me, and I was doing just fine. But he hit me with the bull rush, and he caught me off guard for a little bit. So I stumbled back. I had my right hand outside and my left foot. I quit moving my feet. He kind of threw me down a little bit, and this hand just barely tugged that jersey down. and that's when they threw the flag. I thought it was when I threw him to the ground, but they threw it before that. So, I mean, I wasn't too mad about it. It's a technique error on my part, and I've been working this week to fix it. I think that was my first holding call of my whole career, but I'll make sure it won't happen again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the only penalty you've had before that was a false start last year.
That was Georgia. They started the D-line.
Yeah, pretty sure that was it. So I feel like it's like one of those instances where it's not a tendency, I guess, there. But there was also one play when Elijah Badger caught the ball. You were kind of downfield a little bit, and it looked like you pulled up a little bit, and I was just curious. Were you a little worried about the getting Montrelled with a blindside block there? Because it looked like the defender was going toward you, and then you kind of pulled up a little bit when you had the line. I was like, I was just curious if that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you got to learn from each other. I could have decleated that guy, but, that 2 seconds of glory is not worth the ass shield you're going to get. So, I just got in the way and just hoped he went the long way around.
Yeah, I still can't get over the Montrell blindside block for the guy right in front of his face. That just made no sense to me. But we actually have a little bit of a user submitted question, I guess, or a commenter submitted question there, where we were going to talk about this anyway, because I saw it, and as the play was happening, I was just like, I wrote it down. I was like, I have to ask about this. And we had someone leave a comment specifically to talk to you about this. You catch the ball near the sideline. 2 UCF defenders end up, as the commenter put, ass over elbows. And then you just step out of bounds. I saw after you kind of slam the ball into your hands a little bit. Just walk me through that play there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest part was why I was frustrated because, I'm only probably going to get one chance to score a game if I'm lucky, and that was the chance. And I was pretty aware of that right there. I did the hard part. I shrugged the 2 guys off of me. I guess I was backpedaled for that 1 second to turn back around. I guess I barely stepped out, but dude, I was sick. When I initially turned around, he didn't blow the whistle just yet, and I just saw this straight line at the end zone. I was like, no way. Like a second later, heard the whistle, and I was like, yeah, that would happen.
Yeah, that we both thought you were scoring there. I was sitting there, and I was just like, oh, there's daylight in front of him, and then I just hear the whistle. So you just look and slam the ball in your hands, and I was like, damn. Just
Callaway told me, he was like, that would have been the extra effort play of the year if you would just keep your big feet in bounds. So.
Yeah, it was a tough one there, but you guys are coming off a 2-game winning streak. Been a while since there's been a 2-game winning streak, especially against Power 4 programs here. Just what's prep been like, especially as, of course, now there's a hurricane coming in and you guys have to travel out. Or do you guys travel out early, or is this normally when you guys go?
Yeah, nothing as of now. Nothing travel wise has changed. I mean, we're practicing a little earlier tomorrow, but I mean, it's still the same schedule. Just trying to get home before the winds pick up. So yeah, I mean, we're not changing anything. We're still focused on Tennessee, and I feel like we'll probably still leave Friday, get out smoothly. So,
is there anything that the coaching staff kind of does when you guys start to pick up momentum with a couple of wins, and it's like, hey guys, like, let's keep yourself kind of mentally in check there?
I really don't. That was a problem last year. I don't think it's that much of a problem this year. I think that has to do with the back half of the schedule we're about to go through. I think guys know that the rest of these teams we're going to play are significantly better than UCF and Mississippi State. So we know that we got to pick it up regardless. I mean, obviously the attitudes and like the environments are way better when you come on to 2-game winning streak, but we also know what lies ahead, and we're not overlooking that.
Yeah. And I have to ask about this schedule specifically, because so much of the offseason coverage was this schedule is hell, and the last 5 games especially are tough, but there's really nothing easy about the schedule. Does it give you a little bit of, I don't know, solace, I guess is the word that we'll use here, that all of these teams kind of seem more human than obviously every team can be beat. Every team has weaknesses, but we've seen Georgia loss against Alabama, which transitive property doesn't matter with the Vanderbilt upset there, but it feels like every team has been upset or shown more flaws than probably expected before the season. So does that kind of play into how you guys look at the end of this schedule at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's how we looked at it since day one, though, they believe just like we do, the more prepared team is going to win. But yeah, I mean, to your point, watching a lot of those upsets last week, especially against Tennessee, who we're about to play, it just shows you that if you go in there and execute your plan better than they execute their plan, it's anyone's game, And Tyler Miles, our strength coach, he's been having this saying all week. It just says spot the ball. It's like shut up all the talking. Let's go in their house, spot the ball, and let's see what happens,
Yeah, and I have to ask just from the player perspective of things, you guys have gone through a lot of strength and conditioning changes. You had Mark Hockey and then Craig Fitzgerald and then now Tyler Miles. Just what's that been like in terms of building an actual, I guess, lifting regime and building that routine there?
Yeah, it's about this kind of the same as Fitzgerald was. Like you could call it like a skeleton, and Miles kind of put his own touch on it as well. But yeah, I'm a fan of how they're running things. I was also a fan of hockey too. So just think it's just if you just, especially with any of these strength coaches, if you just do what you're supposed to do, like what they tell you to do, you're gonna see results. But like obviously with any coach, if you cut corners, you're not going to get results.
Yeah, and not to pit player versus player or anything like that, but this is a player that you're going to see later this year. When Princely Umanmielen left Florida, he had some comments about the strength and conditioning program, and he was basically like, hey, like they train us to be a Pac-12 team or a track or something like that. Assuming you don't share the same sentiment on that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into it too deep, but just I feel like even if that's how he felt, I don't think he should have said that. What's the point if you're leaving anyways? The dog on the staff. In my opinion, I just don't think he worked the hardest at times, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that multiple people have said in the media about him specifically. And we like to wrap up with a non-football question here. And this is probably the least inclusive we're going to be for the actual listeners of this show to get a response that they know anything about. How was the event last week after we finished recording? How was that one for you?
I actually didn't make it. I didn't go. I was with my room. I was gonna go. Kind of hit a wall, got off the podcast. When I got on NCAA, threw myself a couple touchdowns and called it a night.
Do you do the right stick, Selly, the bow and arrow every time?
Yeah, I like to think they put that in there just because of me. Like that's my sketch. That's what I tell myself.
No one has ever come out and said they didn't do it just for you.
I don't know.
Until they do, you're not wrong. Thank you so much. This is Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end. Catch him every week on Locked On Gators and every Saturday with your Florida Gators. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free episodes of the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators football with Eric Kane of Locked On Vols. I think that he is the guy I've done the most crossovers with outside of Alex Dono from Locked On Canes, because we did like 4 with him this year. We've done previous ones about recruiting stuff. It's just fun. Donald's a good guy, despite being a Canes fan. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com, and I'll see you all next time.